Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I've got the Week 12 starts and sits for every game this weekend, starting with the Thursday games. Some good matchups this week. Definitely want to talk about them. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And happy Thanksgiving to you all. I apologize for not getting out the waiver wire show earlier this week. It's been very busy, obviously, with the short week and the holiday. So I apologize for that, but it's not like there was really any really good names that you really had to pick up off the waiver wire. So I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully you put your claims in. You got a few guys. But let's, so wait a minute. So before we do that, hey, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you leave a comment, share this with your friends, and of course, subscribe. All those things help me with the YouTube algorithm, and I do very much appreciate it. And got a little update. There was a game I was talking about last week where I literally lost by 1 yard. I lost by 1/10 of 1 point. I was just going out of my mind. I couldn't believe it happened. Well, there was a stat correction, and it went in my favor, and so I ended up winning that game. So this is one of my high-stakes leagues where I still am sitting in the fourth position with the highest points in the fourth position with the record, but I am tied for record with three other teams, and those three other teams are about 20 points behind me. So this is the final week of the regular season for the tournament, so I just need to score. I don't even need to win, really, because the fourth place player is the highest points remaining. So I just have to stay ahead of these three other teams heading into this final game, and I get into the playoffs. That helps me a little bit because I do have Tyreek Hill on this team. Of course, he is on bye this week. So I'm just going to have to hope that this team can pull it off. And if it does, I get into the playoffs, and I get to play for the high-stakes wins. So let's talk about the games. Now, I have games divvied up. Either they're going to be graveyards, they're going to be blowouts, or they're going to be gold mines. Okay, so starting with the graveyards, I only have 3 games listed as graveyards. This actually looks to be a pretty good week for fantasy. So I'm much better than last week was. So I'm happy about that. But only one of the Thursday games is a graveyard game, and it of course is the first game. It is the Bears at the Lions, and again, when I'm talking about graveyards, I'm just saying there is very limited fantasy value on either team. And when you look at the Lions and the Bears, yeah, that is absolutely the case. Low scoring, bad offenses, and there's really no way out of here. But as far as the Bears go, it is a plus matchup, but outside of David Montgomery and now Darnell Mooney, I think both those guys are startable. You can't start anyone else on this offense. Mooney has gotten excellent volume over the past 3 games. Of course, that was with Fields. Fields is probably out this week, so hopefully he continues to get that kind of volume. Given that Allen Robinson is out with that hamstring injury, I think he's a pretty safe bet. As a flex play, I'm totally comfortable with starting him. And I think the Chicago defense, great start this week. If you can get them off of the waivers, I would go ahead and start them. And on the Lions side, you can only start Swift and Hawkinson. Those are the only 2 players you can play, and that's it. So there you go. Very easy and quick. The next graveyard game, the Jets at the Texans. This is a Sunday early game. And right now, Texans favored by 3. Over-under is 46 points, which seems very high for these teams. But the Texans are 7th best for opposing wide receivers. So I think if you want to start Corey Davis or Elijah Moore in your flex, I think they're a good option. I think you can start them. They both seem to be getting pretty good volume. And again, good matchup, so they should be productive. You can't start anyone else, though. Michael Carter is out with an injury. I don't trust anyone else on that backfield. Don't even bother with it. Chances are the Jets are going to be playing from behind anyway. Now, the Texans, again, the Texans are just a real weird team this year because they're playing some good games and they're beating some good teams that they should probably lose to. Last week, Brandon Cooks didn't do anything, even though the team scored a lot of points. That was kind of surprising. But he should be better against this matchup. Again, no one else on the Texans you can start. I know that right now that backfield, you might be tempted to start Rex Burkhead or David Johnson. I wouldn't do it. I mean, again, the backfield on the Texans is just a mess. There's not enough volume, and they're not a good enough team to run the ball. So anyway, that's it for that game. And then the last graveyard game I have is the Monday Night Football game. Seahawks at Washington. Seahawks are favored by 1. The over-under is 46.5 points. Now, I put it here because, again, the Seahawks offense has just been so awful over the past few weeks with Russell Wilson. It's very shocking. Now, if there's a way for him to get right, it would be against this Washington team. And Washington has given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. That's a good thing. So Russell Wilson, I'm going to start him, even though I feel very nervous about this. And then I also think because of that, it's going to be good news for Metcalf and Lockett, who both get a top 5 matchup. So again, there is potential here, but it's just that they've done so little with Russell Wilson over the past few weeks. It's a very tough spot, but I think you can start all of them. I don't trust the backfield. I think you need to bench those guys unless you absolutely have to start one of them. But I'm not going with Rashad Penny or Alex Collins. Again, they're just not good options. For Washington, Antonio Gibson gets a top 3 matchup, and last week he got a really good volume. Of course, there is some encroachment there in that backfield. That backfield's kind of a mess, but I think Antonio Gibson is a safe spot with this sort of matchup. And of course, McLaurin is a start as well. I actually think Heineke, the quarterback, would be a good streaming option if you're streaming quarterbacks this week. I think it is a decent matchup for him. So this game might not end up being a graveyard, in my opinion. I just put it here just because everybody's been so disappointing on both these teams. So that's where I'm going on that. But this could easily turn into a gold mine game. But anyway, that's where I have it right now. Next up, let's see here. Blowouts. I only got 4 games listed as blowouts this week. So again, way better than last week. We got a lot of games that had qualified as gold mine games. So let's just get right to it. So the blowout games, we've got the Raiders at the Cowboys. This is another Thursday game. Cowboys currently favored by 7. The over-under is 51 points. And as far as the Raiders go, man, their offense has just fallen off a cliff with all the turmoil they faced. Obviously, Henry Ruggs, obviously the coach, getting fired. So really the only guys I feel comfortable starting on this team would be Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow, who I had been playing and had been doing pretty good, he had a bad game last week, but he has gotten 8+ targets in 4 of the past 6 games. So that, for me, that says, okay, you can put him in as a flex if you want. I think he's good, but you can't start anyone else on this team. On the Cowboys, we've got the potential that both Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are not going to be involved in this game. It seems very likely. Still, with this defense, Prescott and Elliott are both starts. And this is a game where I'm open to taking a chance on one of these, on guys like Tony Pollard, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. I think all of them are going to see nice volume, especially if both Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb sit, which I do expect them to do. Now, if either of those guys end up playing, then the risk goes up on these other 3. But, that's the way I'm looking at it right now. So I think as far as a flex play, Pollard and Gallup are great flex plays. Dalton Schultz, tight end, should be solid. Next blowout game, Buffalo at the Saints. This is the other Thursday game. So again, Thursday is going to be kind of a lopsided week. We got the Bills favored by 4.5, which seems low. Over under 46.5. And I do expect Buffalo to bounce back from the thumping that Indy gave them. I think it was just a bad game, got out of hand. I'm confident in starting Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in this game, but the backfield is a mess, and the Saints are number 1 against the run, so don't even bother with that. Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders remain just way too volatile to trust. And finally, Dawson Knox is facing a top 6 defense against the position, so I would consider sitting him if you can. He is a risky start, despite how well he did last week. On the Saints side, there's a chance that both Kamara and Ingram are not going to be playing this week. And Adam Troutman has also been lost, I think, for the season. I think he's been put on injured reserve, so he's out. So I don't see anybody you can start on this offense unless somehow Kamara or Ingram plays. If either of them plays, you play them. But otherwise, I wouldn't play anybody on this team. The next blowout game, Sunday early, Titans at Patriots. Patriots are favored by 3, over and under 46 points, but I'm kind of surprised to see it so close, given that Tennessee, everybody's injured. There's nobody that's able to play. If AJ Brown plays, I would play him. If he sits, I would start Nick Westbrook in kind. I don't know how that last name is pronounced, but Westbrook would be a good start if A.J. Brown sits, just for the volume, just because it's going to be negative game script. I wouldn't start anyone in this backfield or Tannehill. So, again, just steer clear of most of the Titans this week. As far as the Patriots, love the ground game. I think both Harris and Stevenson are starts, and they should be utilized heavily. All the receivers are touchdown or bust, so Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, kind of start at your own risk. I'd probably put them into the flex if I need to, but otherwise I would stay away. Browns at the Ravens, Sunday evening game. Ravens favored by 3.5. Over and under is 48.5 points. Again, on the Browns, the only player you can start on this offense is Chubb. There is a potential that Kareem Hunt might be activated, so watch his status this week. He thinks he's going to be able to play this weekend, but I need to see him get into full practice. If it's a game time decision, I wouldn't bother. Just keep him off this week. He'll be good for next week then, and that's fine for me. On the Ravens, Lamar Jackson should be back. So with him back, everyone's a start in my book. Hollywood, Andrews, Bateman, and Freeman are all facing a middle-of-the-road defense, so I think that they are all good to start if Jackson plays. So that's my qualifier there. And that's it for the blowout. So Goldmine games, what do I got? 8. I got 8 that qualify as Goldmine games. So that makes me happy. That should make you happy for fantasy. So the first Goldmine game is going to be Buccaneers at the Colts Sunday early. Bucks are favored by 2.5. Over under is 51.5 points. I think this game's going to be a barn burner. Really, this is one of those that has the potential to be a really high-scoring game. Tom Brady and company are all starts here. Gronk looked great last week as well, so go ahead and start him. I did not want to start him last week. He did play. He played great, but it was the Monday night game. It was just too risky to put him into your flex or into your tight end position, so I didn't start him. But, I think he's good to go this week. Hopefully he has a big week. I need him to come through this week because – I already told you Tyreek Hill is out, but Gronk is in, so I need Gronk to do really good for me. I think there is a chance that Antonio Brown returns as well, and if he's able to get into full practice this week, I'd start him too. On the Colts side, Tampa Bay is third best against the run, but you saw what Jonathan Taylor did to Buffalo's number 1 rush defense last week, so I think you're totally okay with starting Jonathan Taylor. He will have a good game. I know that Pittman was a disappointment, but it was a tough matchup, and they didn't need to utilize him. It was all JT. So anyway, I think he should be good, and I think he's good to start as well. The next next Goldmine game, Eagles at the Giants Sunday early. Eagles favored by 4.5. The over-under is 46 points. The Giants are a very generous defense, so I think Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and Devonta Smith all get top 12 matchups, so I'd start all of them. Goddard is in the middle of the road matchup, and I think he's also a start as well. On the Giants side, Barkley was obviously underwhelming last week against Tampa Bay's really good run defense, but it should be a much better matchup in Philly. He's getting a lot of utilization in the passing game as well, so I think it's great. Let's hear Philly is allowing the 8th most points to running backs. So I think he's good. I would be cautious about starting any receivers as Philly is number 2 against the pass. But if Tony plays and he's getting a really great amount of volume, so I think Tony is a start. I would be really reluctant to start anybody else, though. Next Goldmine game, Panthers at the Dolphins, Sunday early. Panthers are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 42.5, so they have it pegged as kind of a low-scoring game. I don't think that's going to be the case. Miami is actually 7th best against running backs, but you don't ever sit CMC when he's healthy. Cam Newton is startable at this point, and he did pretty good passing the ball last week, 198 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. So I'm going to start DJ Moore as well. I know I told you to sit him last week. As far as the Dolphins go, Carolina is top 5 against quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. But the only players I'm looking to start on this roster are the receivers. Waddle, Gesicki, and Fuller probably back because I anticipate it will be negative game script. So they'll have to pass the ball a lot. I would sit Tua and I would sit Gaskin, though. Next Goldmine game, Steelers at Bengals. Bengals are favored by 4.5. Over-under is 45. Steelers have a number of good options here. Harris gets a top 12 matchup, so that's awesome. Bengals D is top 10 against wide receivers, but I think you need to play Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool regardless. Pat Freiermuth is an every week start at this point, so go ahead and put him in as well. And I actually have Big Ben starting in one of my leagues because I have Mahomes out this week. And you know what? Big Ben has been better than Mahomes has over the past few weeks, with the exception of, I think 2 weeks ago, Mahomes had a really big game. But anyway, you could probably stream Roethlisberger if you wanted to. For the Bengals side, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are every week starts. I think Boyd is a PPR flex here, but I do think Burrow and Uzomah belong back on your bench for now. They're just not producing like you need them to. And again, Uzomah only gets 2 or 3 targets. He's like Hunter Henry. When he's getting the touchdowns, he's very useful for fantasy. But if he doesn't get any touchdowns, he's only going to get you 2 points. So anyway, I told you you could roll the dice with him last week. Didn't pay off, but it probably won't again this week. Next Goldmine game, Falcons at the Jaguars. Okay, so Falcons are favored by 0.5 point. The over-under is 47 points. And again, this is a situation where we've got 2 terrible teams with terrible defenses, so they should be productive. For the Falcons, obviously Kyle Pitts, Cordarrelle Patterson are both starts if he plays. But outside of those 2, I think I would be very reluctant to start anyone. On the Jaguars side, I've made no secret as to how much I hate this Jaguars offense, but it does have good matchups all around. James Robinson, obvious start. And I also think that Shenault and Marvin Jones are startable as flex players this week. Dan Arnold got you a goose egg last week, but I would be willing to start him in this matchup. Again, it is a good matchup, and he is getting volume. Next Goldmine game, Chargers at the Broncos, Sunday afternoon. Chargers are favored by 3. Over-under is 49 points. I really need Herbert to have a big game this week. It's very important to a number of my fantasy teams. Broncos are top 10 against quarterbacks and running backs, though. So, if you have a better option than Herbert, I would probably start him. Eckler is a must start at this point. You can't sit him. I got to say, Herbert has just been so up and down this year. I mean, he's either been great or he's been terrible. There's been no mediocre, meh games where he got 20 points. It's either he gets you 40 or he gets you 12. And so that makes him just a very risky start. Receivers are in a great matchup. So Keenan Allen is a start. And I think Mike Williams is a great flex start this week as well. On the Broncos side, we got a top 5 matchup against the running backs. It's a top 5 matchup for the running backs. Top 5, the Chargers are bottom 5 against running backs. Let me just clarify there. So I think both Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are flex options here. So I think you can definitely start them. Receivers, though, are facing a top 3 pass defense. So the only receiver I would start is Judy. And Font also has a great matchup, top 2 matchup, so he is definitely a start as well. Next gold mine game, Rams at the Packers Sunday afternoon. Rams are favored by a half point, over under 47.5. Green Bay is top 10 against quarterbacks and running backs, but you have to play Stafford and Kupp. OBJ, I think, is a risky start right now. We still haven't seen what his usage is, so start him at your own risk. I would be inclined to sit him, though, until we see some more out of that guy. Henderson faces a middle-of-the-road running defense, but I would stay away from anyone else. So don't start the tight ends or anything like that. Or Van Jefferson. I don't think they have very good matchups here. Packers. The Rams defense is not as imposing as you would think. They're pretty much middle of the road across the board. So I think Rodgers, Dillon, and Adams, all starts, all should be productive. I know that Marquez Valdez-Scantling blew up last week, but you can't chase that production. The week before, he got one target. So I'm not going to chase it. I would not start him. That's a daily fantasy play if you want to go that route. The final game is the Sunday afternoon game. Vikings at the Niners. Again, another gold mine game. Niners are favored by 3. Over-under is 48.5. And as far as the Vikings are concerned, San Francisco defense is top 10 against running backs and wide receivers, but I'm not going to sit Dalvin Cook. I'm not going to sit Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen. You play those guys no matter what. Kirk Cousins gets a top 10 matchup, so I think he's a great start this week as well. On the Niners side, and as far as Conklin goes, Conklin has been pretty disappointing. I would start someone else if you have him as your tight end. Do you have another tight end option you can start in his place? Because he's only getting a few targets a week. I mean, he's getting you a couple of catches and some yards, but it's just, it's like 5, 6, 7 points. It's nothing that's helping your fantasy team. So if you have a better option, play him. For the Niners, it's going to be a great day for Debo. He gets a top 2 matchup. Ayuk, I think, is also a start because of this. Garoppolo, I think, is a sneaky streaming start if you need a quarterback. And George Kittle is up against a team that is top 10 against tight ends. But you don't sit Kittle if he's healthy. You play Kittle. We'll have to wait and see if Eli Mitchell plays. If he's a go, you can start him. If he sits, then start Jeff Wilson. But those are the only startable options in this backfield. And if Eli Mitchell plays, I would sit Jeff Wilson. So that's where I'm at. So thank you very much for watching. Have a happy Thanksgiving holiday and enjoy the time off. I know I am. And thanks for sticking it out and watching the whole thing. Good luck this weekend in Week 12. I got a lot of critical games I need to turn around. There's one team where I started 8-0, just absolutely dominating that league. I mean, I'm like several hundred points in fantasy points scored over every other team. But starting week 9, 10, 11, I have only scored about 60% of my projections, and I have lost 3 in a row, and I've all of a sudden fallen to second place in this league. I don't think there's any danger of me falling out of the playoffs just because I already have 8 wins, but I'm just like, what in the heck happened? It's like a light switched off. It's like all of a sudden I went from scoring like 170, 180 points a week to where I'm scoring like 110, 120 points a week. It's just, it's the agony and the ecstasy of fantasy football. I'll tell you that. But anyway, I'm hoping to turn it around this week. I got a lot of good players just ready to come back and load. I'm projections again, right up around 180, 190 points. I just need to have the players follow through and do it. I get Cooper Kupp back this week. That'll help. But anyway, I hope it goes well. I hope I turn around and notch my 9th win there, because that's my best team this season for sure. And of course, getting into the playoffs with that team that I love so much, that high stakes league. All I got to do is just keep my score at least. I got a 20-point cushion. That those 3 teams that are behind me, I just need them to score less than 20 points more than I scored this week, and I get into the playoffs. But of course, if I get the win, I'll just get in, most likely anyway. So but it's a 4-way race for this 4th spot. Anyway, so that's it. Sorry to bore you with those details, but let's have a good fantasy week this week. I will talk to you next week, and everybody have a great holiday. See you later.